Hey everybody, welcome back to Little Things or Big Things Education Podcast with K-Dub and T-Free. We're starting you off here with our connection activity in the week of fear of looking stupid. And K-Dub's going to guide us through this week's connection activity, and it's going to talk about making space that highlights our students' interests. So take it away, Dave.
Thanks, T-Free. So this week's connection, I've got two. The first one is a really simple, straightforward one. It's not even really an activity. It's just like a be thoughtful about the space that you create in your classroom. And I know that we don't all have the ability to do this. Like I know Tim has shared out that he's got the rolly cart that he's very much personalized and made himself. But he's living from classroom to classroom, and I know that's becoming a norm. But if you have the ability in your space to really highlight like all of the things that you're interested in your life, I think that's really important for a lot of reasons. So like if you were to come into my classroom right now, you would walk in, and on the right hand side you would see like the Welsh flag, the Bavarian flag, the Cascadia flag. You look over to the left and there's a banner hanging for each of the houses of Hogwarts, and a Hogwarts flag or a banner hanging on the other wall. And then the wall behind me's got some like the dog and my wife and some family stuff. And then just all sorts of like football, like pictures from teams I've coached of football, and team photos from coaching girls soccer and boys soccer and that kind of stuff. And then I've got a whole nother wall and a half that are dedicated to like student artwork, like that's either been given to me or that I just kept because it was really cool and I wanted to keep it. But most of it's like stuff that was given to me for whatever reason. So I think making that space in your class is really helpful because it shows kids different entry points into getting to know you. And that like being someone with multiple interests is important, right? Like how many head football coaches' rooms would you walk into and also see, I intentionally wore my Ravenclaw shirt today, right? Like to like rep the Harry Potter stuff, or to, have like a whole thing that has a bunch of fantasy books on it to rep Redwall and that kind of stuff. I think that kind of thing kind of gives kids permission to also feel safe opening up about who they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And I think most students, I know I did when I was in high school, like have an instant judgment or expectation of how this teacher is going to be because they teach this subject and they look this certain way. And so for you to put your interest on the board and show that diversity of like, yeah, this is me and this is me and this is me, and you can be the same way because we all have so much that's true about us, I think is awesome to invite that.
So that's kind of like a real basic thing. I wouldn't call that a connection activity. It was just like something that I've really thought hard about. And I know it's anecdotal, but every year I get multiple students who will comment on like noticing, like they heard that, oh, I heard he was the football coach, but then I walked in your room and I saw the Ravenclaw sign. And that was the thing I connected to, right? Where I saw that you had a copy of Redwall over on the corner, right? And like or Star Wars or whatever the thing is, right? Because I've got a Star Wars Lego thing on top of one of the bookshelves. So,
awesome.
So those things all like were just Legos, right? And then the activity is very much connected to that. So I, for a long time, used to do like first day of the school year, do like name tents, right? Where the kids kind of, they write their name on the little paper that you fold into three, and it makes a little tent that stands up to kind of help with name memorization. And then the last 2 years, I've done this different thing. I don't remember who I got the original idea from, but it's a name shield instead. And there's a whole bunch of things you can do with shields to make it like, so you're not just presenting like this super Eurocentric thought process, but also being careful to like not culturally appropriate things, but like showing them like versions of African shields. So kids who identify more with that culture have that to fall back onto, right? Because pretty much every culture has used a shield of some sort in their representation. And then just asking kids to think about like what are things that you're interested in or that you care about that you could visually put onto your shield, right? And you can let them trace, because I'm not good at art, so I'm not like you, Tim. I can't do artwork. My stick figures are bad, but I can trace really well. So I'll come up with some stuff and trace and put it on there. And then the next piece that's really interesting. So you've got this visual that is just, it's cool to see all the different artwork in that sense and see what kids put on there. But then having the kids share out like, hey, this is what I put on my shield and these are the reasons I put it on there. And it's really interesting. This year was even more a high example of that with the hybrid and the late and having masks on and everything and not doing it until April. But like I shared out mine, right? And so I've got mine has like the thing that I care most about in the world, which is the idea of justice. There's like a value that's like most important to me. And then I used the women's soccer team logo for like to represent sports and how important sports are. And I go really deep with stuff, right? Like I'll take it like to the furthest level. I'll talk about like my wife and I's connection to sports and how that's something that we really care about. I'll talk about coaching. And then I used a wolf to talk about how much I love animals and I love my dog. And like I love wolves because they're collective and they represent like this idea of community as well. So all this kind of deep stuff about it. And then you let the kids share out. And I think it's essential that you let kids pass, right? Like they have to be able to, you have to let them choose not to share out. But what's really interesting is what I always tell the kids is we're going to make a circle, right? And you can always pass and then I'll come back to you in case you decide later on that you want to share, where you can always raise your hand and let me know that you've changed your mind. That's okay too. And so having kids do that and they get to share out things about themselves, and then you'll see kids who passed before kind of change their mind and pass. Or I had one kid this year who we went around the circle. They didn't want to share with everybody else, but they like wrote me a email that had the reason for their shield, and they were still displaying it in the display case that I created. I just take plastic sheet protectors and tape them to the desk so they can stick them in there.
Nice.
But like she just typed me this email about like, hey, this is why I picked the stuff I picked. Some of it was a little more personal than I feel comfortable sharing with these people I don't know yet, kind of thing. So I still got to know that piece about her and the reason I think that connection activity is important as it relates to the idea of fear and the fear of like standing out or being wrong or being different is that it creates a space where, because they've seen my room and then they've heard me share out about some different things, there's an expectation that it's okay to talk about the things that make us unique in this space and not feel the need to fit in, while at the same time that you're doing that, right? Especially in a normal school year, we've got like 30 students in your room. I have never had a kid share a shield out and not have at least one or two things on their shield that they have in common with another student, right? So it creates like this kind of affinity sense. And it's really fun, at least in my class. What I'll do is I let the kids sit where they want on the first day, and then I let them do that the next day. And it's really funny to see how kids, after they've shared shields out, will rearrange in their groups based on the things that they like. It happens naturally. You'll just see kids kind of shuffle the deck, and it's not everybody, right? But you'll see a few kids like, oh, I found out that kid really likes to go bicycle riding. I'm gonna go sit with that kid. And I do that. I teach ninth graders, so that's probably part of it. So anyways, that's the connection activities, that shield, and then sharing out and giving the kids a chance to create a space where there's, I hope, and my experience has been in my classroom anyways, less fear around telling people what it is that you're passionate about, right? What do you actually care about?
Well, and I really like what you kind of finished up with there, like where you're talking about how they almost naturally will clump with like-minded students. Because a lot of times with these connection activities, you talk about, okay, how do we connect to our students? And sometimes we do have like the connecting with each other, but like to be able to do both in the same activity, I think is so good. And so to be able to learn something about the students, let them learn stuff about you because you've already modeled it, and then allow them to see each other's and have a safe spot to do that, and then create friendships that maybe they would have never even like approached, just because you have created a spot where they can share a part of who they are in a different way. Because not all of us want to get up and be like, hey, yo, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I believe in, these are the words I really like, and like my favorite values. And so like to put it on the shield and then have an opportunity to explain it, but also have the opportunity to just let it be, I think is such a great way to create that connection in very safe ways. So I love that activity.
Sweet.
I think I'm going to steal that from you.
Awesome. Well, I've stolen plenty from you already with the 2 truths and a lie and all sorts of other stuff that we've done this year. So glad I got one that you can use. So yeah, it's a good start of the year one. And same thing with the classroom thing, right? Being thoughtful about just putting yourself out there so your kids can already see that this is a space where it's okay to to let your passion flag get raised up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that sounded really terrible.
Passion flag raised up.
Yeah, you might have to edit that one out, Tim.
But I love leaving just goofy crap in here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fine. I won't be mad at you if you leave it in.
I love it. No, that was great. And just kind of, short, sweet, to the point. There's your connection activity. So we're excited to dive deeper with you all on Thursday and dive into the fear of looking stupid. And we're going to have some great conversation there. So go connect, learn some more about your students, give them those safe spaces to connect with you, be vulnerable with them. I love that. So we'll see you all back here on Thursday. Always learning to Peak State.
Make it a great day.